What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, the latest title in the Yakuza series. Though right here at the beginning of the video, I do need to inform you that this video is in fact sponsored by Sega, the game's publisher. And to that end, if you like what you see over the course of this one, you can go to infinitewealth.sega.com to learn more, or of course click the link in the description below. The game itself will be available on Xbox, Windows, PlayStation, and Steam, and is out now. And with that out of the way, let's actually talk a bit about the game itself. So, Infinite Wealth is a game made up of many different parts, such as its story, combat elements, RPG mechanics, mini-games, and many other experiences, meaning that there's a lot to do and talk about. But first things first, let's start with the story of this title, which follows two heroes and several other companions in a story across the Pacific, specifically in Japan and Hawaii. The first of these heroes is Ichiban Kasuga, a man orphaned at birth who crawled his way up from the bottom before leaving his criminal past behind him, only for it to resurface at an unfortunate time, but also just so happens to set him on the trail of his birth mother, which is one of the reasons we are sent to Hawaii. Our second protagonist, though, is Kazuma Kiryu, a legend in his own right, coming to terms with the meaning of his life as he faces a battle with cancer. And be it by fate or simply a sinister plot, they are brought together to, of course, explore these areas of the game and the larger narrative. But the story is far from the only thing going on in this title. So next up, I want to talk about a few of the RPG mechanics as we make our way through the game, completing missions of various sorts and engaging in combat. We will be gaining experience and leveling up, which includes quite a few different mechanics, such as our character level, our job ranks, or our equipment even. Each of our party members will have a character level and a job rank. Character level, of course, being the overall measure of their strength, whereas a job is their assigned class. There are more of these. They can be swapped out in certain cases, though some are specific to individual characters, and jobs allow you to, of course, specialize your stats, making you good at magic versus melee, that kind of thing, but it's also responsible for your skills. As your job rank goes up, the skills available to you within that job will increase and unlock, allowing you to perform different attacks in combat. Some of these you'll unlock simply by playing through the story, and many others, though, will be available from tours you can take in Hawaii that will unlock new potential jobs, allowing you to customize each character's individual role in the party. And that's to say nothing, of course, of the equipment system. As with any good RPG, we can equip various weapons for individual characters along with gear that allows you to further specialize them, granting effects like damage reduction or immunity to certain status effects, etc. And while those are some of the most basic concepts, there is a lot more that actually ties into the rest of the gameplay experiences you can have that then impact things like your stats or combat even, many of which involve increasing your personality traits by engaging in certain relevant activities or spending time with your companions and increasing your bond with them, which will then unlock things like combo attacks. So in between missions, you'll be free to explore the given areas where you can get up to all sorts of activities. As I've already mentioned, you can hang out with your companions at certain areas, allowing you to learn more about them. Some of this is reflected in conversations you can find by wandering around the world, which will cause you to learn more about them, in addition to just spending time with them in general. Furthermore, there are personality traits that our character has, such as kindness, charisma, intelligence even, just to name a few, and we increase these by engaging in various activities, one of which, for instance, is a sort of friend finder app on our character's phone that allows us to make friends with the locals that we run into, and doing this can often increase certain personality traits, and those personality traits then allow you to unlock other types of content, giving you that much more to do. A lot of that can involve things like minigames, for instance, though, from simple things like arcade machines at an arcade to more complicated ones like Crazy Delivery. This one is inspired by Sega's own Crazy Taxi that puts you in the role of a food delivery service, performing a bunch of tricks and chaining them together as much as possible while delivering food to customers in an attempt to make some money on the side. And that's to say nothing of other potential activities such as building up Dondoko Island or Sujimon, which will put you into contact with all sorts of over-the-top enemies. But before we get too carried away, let's actually talk about combat now. So combat is technically turn-based, but it is very quick, and it uses their live command battle system, which puts you in an arena that allows a decent amount of freedom of movement to really lean into things like positioning, items, and combos. So for starters, on your character's turn, you'll be able to move that character within the blue circle on the ground when you start your turn. Enemies and your allies will also be moving, and this is important because this allows you to position yourself for your attacks. And when you choose to attack, be that with a basic attack or a skill or an item, the direction you're facing matters because there are AoE effects tied to most of these. It's also possible to knock enemies down with successful hits or into each other or even into your allies. This means if you can group enemies up in various ways or hit them in the back for extra damage, for instance, you can take control of that positioning. It's also possible to position yourself and your items that are in the vicinity to pick those up and use them for your attacks, which can then open up all manner of different effects, which makes it possible to use the environment to devastating effect. In fact, if you're having a battle on the street, sometimes cars will be passing by and you can even knock enemies into those. There's also the perfect attack and block system. When you execute special attacks, if you hit a quick time event at the right moment, you'll get some extra damage. And then when enemies attack you, if you time it just right, you can perfect guard to reduce some of the incoming damage. And all of that together makes combat, despite being turn-based, a very dynamic and involved affair that can be pretty quick. And to that end, they also incorporate features like Smackdown, which means if you are encountering an enemy that is much weaker than you, you can hit a prompt to simply end the battle, albeit at a slight experience loss. But it will, of course, let you quickly earn the rewards from said fights. Other interesting combat things, though, are the special Kiwami moves, but there's also Pound Mates, which allows you to summon in backup, which takes the form of a powerful ally with a different range of abilities based on how often you use the service. And while it will cost a little bit of money to hire them, they can have some devastating effects in combat. While you're doing all this, though, you'll almost certainly notice the very over-the-top transformation some of these characters take despite the real-world setting. This is explained away simply by Ichiban's imagination, which means in addition to all these mechanics, we also get a nice bit of visual flair to everything that we're doing. And while I could almost certainly continue to go on about this game, I think with all of that in mind, you pretty much get the idea of what is going on here. And that is that Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth combines a variety of different elements to come together to make a unique experience. Things like the story, the take on combat, the various mini-games, and the many other things you can get up to that I didn't mention here. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, as a reminder, you can check infinitewealth.sega.com, or you can click on the link in the description below to learn more about it, as it is out now. With that in mind, that's going to do it for this particular video. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.